She asked Elva, the Fairy King, why conflict in this world never seems to end. No matter the race, they are all living beings sharing the same world. She feared that one day, both the Elf-kin and the Fairy-kin would face destruction. Elva reassured her with a gentle smile, promising that they would always be friends. Back in the present, the overwhelming power of the Fairy King surged, but it was not her own. It was the dark energy of the demon kin, bestowed upon her by the demon lord. Hyri's eyes widened as she noticed a contract seal glowing on Elva's neck. A sinking realization hit her. Elva wasn't wielding this power by choice. If she continued, she would be nothing more than a pawn of the demon kin. Despite everything, Hyri had saved a portion of her strength for someone else's sake, but now she was willing to use it for Elva. Elva unleashed a devastating attack, but before it could reach its Hyri, a radiant barrier of light materialized, blocking the blow. In response, Hyri released an enormous surge of magical energy. The air trembled under its intensity. With a single incantation, Hyri completed a recovery spell, instantly healing her wounds. Even Kotarou felt its effects. His body suddenly felt lighter, as if the weight of exhaustion had vanished. This was the power of Hyri Titania, the strength she once wielded as the great sage. Then she cast her spell, Freezing Sacred Stigmata. The spell surged forward, not to destroy Elva, but to save her. The contract was severed. The chains binding Elva to the demon kin were shattered. She was free. Elva gasped in disbelief. Hyri still remembered. Even after 100 years, she hadn't forgotten what she had said, that they would always remain friends. Kotarou, overcome with relief, reached out toward Elva, only for a dark figure to descend upon them, stomping down mercilessly on her. It was a demon. She was enjoying the scene, a member of the 10 demons of Apru. Hyri's anger grew as she watched the demon stomp on Elva. The demon spoke, mocking them. She said the body transformation was a result of the contract going haywire, and that someone like Elva just couldn't handle it. Furious, Hyri cast transfer magic, teleporting Kotarou and Elva out of harm's way. The moment they teleported, she followed with Karmic Inferno Annihilation, a destructive spell so powerful it obliterated the ground. Despite the devastation, the demon remained unscathed. Hyri, drained from using her most powerful spell, was now exhausted. The demon leapt, preparing to attack. Hyri responded by casting a shield spell, shaping the earth and rocks around her for protection. But the demon's relentless assault crushed the shield. It seemed like part of Hyri's plan. After the rocks shattered, Hyri cast Freezing Sacred Stigmata, the same spell she once used to free Elva. But she missed. The demon mocked her. Hyri's magic was depleted, and the demon taunted her further, claiming that the power of the great sage was gone. The demon went on to boast about how easily they had manipulated the Fairy King. They had toyed with her like a puppet. Hyri was seething with anger. Kotarou too was enraged after hearing everything and seeing the demon's cruel actions. The demon sneered at Hyri, saying that with the look on her face, she would send her to her grave. Hyri glared back, eyes filled with anger. The demon began gathering her power. Then she launched an attack, a relentless barrage of punches aimed straight at Hyri. Kotarou couldn't take it anymore. He stepped in and blocked the attack. He grabbed the demon's fist. His small hands held tightly, and his red menacing eyes locked onto hers. The demon began to sweat. She could feel it. Something was wrong. Kotarou used ninjutsu, redirection. In an instant, the demon's body was torn apart, riddled with holes. Only half of her head remained. Her body vanished into thin air. Ninjutsu, redirection, a fundamental taijutsu technique that temporarily stores received force within the body before returning it to the attacker. Hyri was impressed. Kotarou questioned himself. Killing. It's all he's ever done. But now he felt something different. He didn't want to lose Hyri. Affection, compassion, sadness, grief. Tears fell as Kotarou realized. He too possessed a human heart. But the demon wasn't dead. Half her body was gone, reduced to just an arm and half a head. Kotaro's technique had bypassed the protection granted by the Demon Lord's contract seal. The demon was fascinated by him. She regenerated. Fast. In seconds, her body was fully restored. She had fallen for Kotarou. She looked into his eyes. The eyes of a killer who had buried countless lives. Eyes filled with dark emotion. She invited him to join the demon kin. Together, she said, they could rule the world. But Kotarou realized this world was no different from the one he once lived in. The strong ruled the weak, and he hated it. The demon's body began to change. Her cells twisted and grew. She transformed into a massive, muscular demon, her full power as one of the 10 demons now unleashed. She tried to take Kotarou with her. Then she launched her attack. Exploding demon fist. Hairi was worried. She knew there had to be a limit to what Kotarou could endure. But once again, Kotarou caught the demon's punch with his small hands. He squeezed it tightly and used ninjutsu, redirection once more. The demon vanished into thin air. This time, for real. Kotarou hated those who used power to dominate. The ground had vanished. Kotarou had used up all his strength and lost consciousness. Hairi caught him in her arms, thanking him and telling him he could rest now. Elva, still alive, was amazed. She looked at Kotarou, the human kin baby, and marveled at how he had obliterated one of the 10 demons in a single blow. Hairi noticed that Elva was still breathing and assured her she would heal her. But Elva shook her head, saying it was no use. She didn't want to be healed anymore. She had lived too long. With the loss of the contract seal's power, her body would only continue to decay. Elva spoke of the inevitable defeat of the fairykin. She said the fairykin had been arrogant, seeking more than they deserved, and they would never win against the elfkin. Elva urged Hairi to go, telling her that her journey had only just begun. Pursuers would soon come, and the demonkin would use any means necessary to get their hands on Kotarou. She then gave Hairi a gift, a pair of fairy boots, an S-rank piece of equipment. The boots would triple her speed and allow flight levitation, making it harder for enemies to detect her. Hairi felt lighter the moment she put them on. Elva told them to head east, to the far side of the forest, if they had nowhere else to go. Beyond the Warlord Mountains lay Hydrat, the last stronghold in the world, a place where the demon kin had been continuously resisting. It was their only hope. They were seeking strong individuals from all over the world, and with Kotarou by Hairi's side, she might have a chance. But Hairi interrupted, saying that Elva was wrong. Kotarou-sama and she were not just party members, they were friends, equals, who helped each other, just like the elfkin and fairykin once were. She swore to make their dream a reality, to create a peaceful world where no one would dominate another. As Elva's body continued to decay, memories from 100 years ago flashed in her mind. Hairi, in tears, whispered her final wishes for Elva to rest in peace. Then something strange happened. An eyeball appeared. It was the demon's eyeball, regenerating. The demon somehow had survived. She couldn't believe it herself. It was thanks to the Demon Lord's contract seal. She realized something. Kotarou wasn't normal. He had detected her full-powered demonic fist technique. Suddenly, a large eyeball appeared behind her. It was the Demon Lord. The demon recalled how the Demon Lord had picked her up when she was on the verge of death after her clan was annihilated by the human kin and had given her power. Now she was choking. This demon was a lower species from the ogre kin. She begged the Demon Lord for another chance, but it was too late. She died. Her body withered as though something had drained her dry. Another demon appeared. It was Jua, one of the 10 demons. Azras. Hairi had made it. She had arrived at the Warlord Mountains, the very place where the Demon Lord and the hero's party had once fought. Even now, the battle against the demon kin raged on, day and night without end. The only place in the world that hadn't yet been touched by the influence of the demon kin was the royal capital, Hydrat, which lay beyond the mountains. The people of Hydrat were desperately hoping for the arrival of strong individuals like Kotarou. It was a relentless battle between warriors and demons. No matter how many fell on either side, They just kept fighting. If they could hold out a little longer, reinforcements were expected to arrive. The demons had set their sights on the priest. Just as they were about to attack the priest, their heads went flying. Someone had slashed them down. It turned out to be a busty cat. They were relieved to have been saved. It seemed that the busty cat girl was someone Hyrie knew. It was Miria, one of the four great heroes, Miria Barbatos. She couldn't stand the stench of the demon kin. The demons were terrified. They knew they were done for. It was one of the four great heroes, the war god, Miria Barbatos. In a flash, she leapt forward and slashed off their heads. She suddenly caught a strange scent, a thick, overpowering smell she had never encountered before. It felt as though it clung to the very soul, the intense stench of blood. She rushed forward to strike down the demon kin. But as she swung, she realized too late that it was Hyrie. She almost pierced her head with the sword, but was relieved when she saw it was just Hyrie. Azras, one of the 10 demons, appeared, knowing that Hyrie had fled to the Warlord Mountains, its ideal battlefield. It understood that they were no one to be underestimated. This was its chance, and it was determined to take it, planning to slaughter them if it could. Chapter 11 starts here. 2 long swords are pointed at Hyrie. However, she's unfazed and greets her. It's been a while since they last met. Miria is shocked as to why is Hyrie there. She saw she was carrying a child, a human baby, the one she smelled. Kotarou jumped on her head and pulled its ears. Miria was squirming as Kotarou tugged her ear. She was ticklish. She was baffled, wondering why Kotarou was on her head. Miria grabbed Kotarou, fury in her eyes, and threw him to the ground. Hyrie was about to stop her, worried about Kotarou. But then something emerged from the ground, crushing it as it pierced through. It was a pile of bones, and both Miria and Hyrie were left confused, unsure of what it was. And it seemed that this guy, Azras, was the one behind it. This place is a battlefield where war has raged for hundreds of years. Perfect for Azras, as he can control bones, and there are tens of thousands of corpses he can command. He used a spell. Tens of thousands. Evil brute. Necromancy. The spell was launched toward them, aimed directly at the 3 of them. Azras watched the scene unfold with evident enjoyment, finding it utterly satisfying. He reveled in the chaos as he controlled the foolish humans who stood there, forcing them to turn on one another. It was no longer a battle against an enemy, but a brutal clash among members of the same race, driven by his will. Miria slashed through them, her blade cutting cleanly. As she fought, she noticed something unsettling. The skeletons were of the same race as her. She was furious. The demonkin just kept doing the most infuriating things. In her rage, she wielded her fang sword, unleashing a powerful slash. The blade cut through the air with precision, slicing the wave in half with ease. Hyrie was shocked. There seemed to be no end to them. Miria, however, kept slashing relentlessly, her focus unwavering. She knew all too well that a demon kin was controlling the endless onslaught. Her eyes widened in shock as Kotarou grabbed her hairtail, pulling her back. Kotarou grinned, clearly pleased as he tugged on her fluffy tail. Her eyes burned with fury as she threw Kotarou to the ground again. The demon saw an opportunity and decided to seize it. He activated his skill, Gatu, Hungry Blade, directing it toward Hyrie and Miria from behind. The demon's bones were unlike any ordinary bones. Hardened over hundreds of years, they were capable of piercing anything. The attack came at them swiftly, but Miria quickly caught the scent of the demon nearby. She mocked him, calling him a coward, for using skeletons to find an opening for a sneak attack. The demon, unfazed, taunted them. He questioned why they were so angry, referring to them as the toys of the demon kin. He even admitted to enjoying the sight of humans killing each other. The demon continued, claiming that if the demon lord truly wanted to, he could have destroyed Hydrat in a single night. He was clearly amused, delighting in the thought. Miria attempted to counter the demon's bones, but her sword was swiftly cut in half, leaving her momentarily defenseless. A shadow suddenly appeared in front of Miria. It was Kotarou. He stood in a pose that resembled as if he is preparing to perform ninjutsu, his focus intense as he faced the threat head-on. Miria quickly realized that the presence in front of her was definitely Kotarou. The scent wasn't coming from Hairi. It was far more intense, unmistakably his. It was the smell of blood, but not just any blood. It clung to Kotarou, as though it was etched into his very soul. Kotarou's eyes burned with fury as he observed the demon controlling the corpses. He couldn't believe it. Such an act was nothing more than a mundane technique in his eyes. Kotarou made a swift sign with his hand, his fingers moving in a fluid, practiced motion. He invoked one of the most deadly techniques from the Fuma's 12 forbidden arts, summoning from the underworld. The ninjutsu of the Fuuma surpasses ordinary techniques. Iga, Koga, Saseki, Mochizuki, Nagoro, none of these ninja clans could reach the hidden realm. However, by wandering the border between life and death countless times, some were able to communicate with the dead. The techniques these ninjas mastered through insane training were feared as those of monsters. Fuuma ninjutsu is said to be as vast as the spirits of the dead. Azra's launched its attack, swiftly aiming straight at Kotarou. Miria and Hairi stared in shock, unable to react. In his mind he invoked, "Sleeping souls of this land." He clenched his fist so tightly that blood began to drip. He continued, "By my blood oath, return from the underworld." A drop of blood splattered onto the ground. Fuma's 12 forbidden arts, summoning from the underworld. Blood surged from the ground, rising like a towering pillar. In the center of the crimson surge, a shadow began to form, its outline shifting with something glowing faintly within. Azras was visibly shocked, seemingly aware of what was unfolding. The shadow that emerged took the form of an owl, its shape dark and ominous. The thing that glowed was its eye, burning with an eerie light. Green hair adorned its head, and its face began to take form, with its eye glowing with an eerie light. The shadow swirled, warping, as the blood around it surged and splattered, flowing wildly in every direction. Miria and Hairi sensed its magical power. Judging by their expressions, it felt strangely familiar and incredibly strong. It spread its red wings, then transformed into something dark. It was a cloak. The cloak was billowing. The one wearing it had the appearance of a demon, with two horns jutting from its head. Azras was stunned as his attack neared the one Kotarou had summoned, only to be stopped completely. He was frozen, his attack halted in midair. His voice shook as he asked, "What are you?" Azras' eyes widened as he recognized who it was. Miria and Hairi seemed to have realized it too, their expressions shifting in disbelief. He shouted in uncertainty, realizing it was the demon lord, Servine. Kotarou smiled, his hand outstretched. They stood in silence until Azras spoke. "It's the demon lord, the previous one, Miria." Her face was marked with perplexity as she tried to make sense of the situation. It was the demon lord, the very one they had miraculously defeated 100 years ago, who was supposed to be dead. She remarked that, without Arsland, this guy is... The demon lord, Servine, kneeled to Kotarou. Servine sought, "What shall they do now?" and told him to speak. Kotarou stayed there, utterly silent. Miria was astonished, unable to comprehend what she had just witnessed. Hairi wondered if this too was Kotarou-sama's ninjutsu, questioning whether even the former demon lord was now obeying him. Azras was dumbfounded, unable to comprehend if Kotarou had truly resurrected the demon lord and made him obedient. Azras was in denial, unable to accept that Kotarou had brought the demon lord back. He pressed his bones into the ground, intent on killing Kotarou. Something was emerging on the ground. He connected his bones to the others buried underground, creating a towering mound. He revealed himself as Azras, one of the 10 demons. He declared his intent to kill Kotarou, alongside the former demon lord. The ground cracked as bones bound the former demon lord. Azras swung the towering bones, aiming them at Kotarou and the demon lord. The demon lord raised a finger, and with a single motion, he halted Azras's attack. The demon lord cocked his fingers, clearly annoyed by Azras, then flicked them. The bones binding the demon lord began to shatter. As the demon lord flicked his fingers, a blinding flash erupted in front of Azras, consuming the entire battlefield. Azras was slowly being banished. With a single flick, the demon lord unleashed a ground-shattering force, the earth beneath and behind Azras cracking and vanishing into nothingness. They stood there silently. Then the demon asked Kotarou again, "What is it that he wishes?" He was smiling broadly, his hands clapping in exuberance.